Join me today for some final thoughts on Season 1 of Alien Earth, where we need to discuss, was the show worthwhile? Is Season 2 possible? Am I looking forward to Season 2? Was anything actually resolved? If so, to what end? Important questions like this. So join me today as we talk about these things. This is the Geek Cabal channel. If you've not been here before, my name is Bobbie. And we're going to be talking about the series, Season 1 of Alien Earth. Now, as the episodes were coming out, I did do reviews of each episode. 1 and 2 is the same video because it came out the same night. But there are other videos. And I did a video where I speculated on what was going to happen in the season finale, where I was completely wrong. It's a little bit of a kick, but it happens. So, just want to, obviously I'm going to be talking about spoilers here, so if you haven't seen the show, as much as I want to tell you, stick around, I'm going to talk about spoilers, so if you don't want to be spoiled, probably best not to watch this one. So that aside, I do want to say, before getting any kind of criticisms or anything, I did like the show. I thought it was more or less solid. I'm not going to say I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's like to the lofty heights of like Breaking Bad or anything like that. But I thought it was solid. Now it's only 8 episodes, and it does end on a cliffhanger that who knows if it's going to be resolved or not. But those things aside, I thought it was entertaining. So I just want to say that before I get to my overall criticisms of the show. Because there are a few things I'm going to be critical of. One being that the ending basically doesn't resolve anything. We get a few revelations in the final episode. A little bit about Kid Cavalier's father, at least. I don't remember him saying anything about his mom, but I could be mistaken. And that his English butler sidekick is a robot he made whenever he was very young that he then had kill his dad. Still don't know what the level of relationship is with Kirsch. That's one of the many unresolved things that we have going on. We never did get a resolution to the core question of the show, which I thought was, are the kids themselves, or are they just robots with kids' memories? Now, obviously, it's going to be a fictional resolution because we don't know. I happen to side with the idea of it's just a copy. It's up to you to decide if that's enough to be the same. I don't think it is, because it's not a continuation of consciousness. Because, in theory, their bodies could still also be alive. So, it'd be a separate being that just happens to have their memories. So, yeah, there's that. That's my personal opinion on the matter. But the show does never resolve this. And that's kind of crucial, something on that front would have been nice. A look at maybe one way, maybe the other, something. But, they're clearly different than the other synths. They've got, not attitude, they've got personalities and everything, but that's just the result of their memories. I don't know if there's really a will or a drive in there, and that's kind of the problem, is that we need to know more about certain other things in the alien universe. We need to know more about the synths, actually. Because, if you look back through the movies, our first exposure is Ash, who, up until he freaks out, you think is a person. So clearly they can pass the person the crew didn't know he was a robot. They weren't surprised that robots existed, the human-like robots. They were just surprised that Ash was one. And then we meet Bishop, who again has a personality, and he's more helpful. Ash went all wacky, tried to kill Ripley. Bishop went out of his way to save Ripley, so what we don't know is this just their quirk of programming? Do they, over time, develop their own personalities? there's things we can infer and guess, but we need to actually be told a few things, and we're not. And then later entries just muddy the waters. We have Alien 3, where we have Bishop all torn up, and he wants to die because he doesn't think he can be repaired, which kind of raises the question is, well, why can't he? Can't they just take his robo brain and put it into a new body? The implication is they can't, but why? And so, it's easy for the context of Alien 3 to just sit here and be like, well, okay, for the plot of this movie, that doesn't really matter. But to the larger universe, of course, they didn't know there was going to be anything beyond Alien 3, much less, 4 more movies? The series, I suppose technically 2 with the Alien versus Predator movies also. So, from a lore building standpoint, we could have used a little bit more there. And then we get to Alien Resurrection, and we have what's his name? Call, Winona Ryder's character, who is also a robot, but also she has real personality. As Ripley says, so you're the new model, you're the asshole model. So, and they achieve true sentience. I believe the implication was the previous droids had not. It's been a while since an Alien Resurrection. I'll have to watch it again, I guess, unfortunately. But then we go kind of backwards with Prometheus and Covenant, and David's clearly self-aware. So, but then again, David's also clearly got a screw loose, as we find out in Covenant, whenever he misquotes the Ozymandias poem. And the other robot, whose name escapes me, unfortunately, also Michael Fassbender, has to, he corrects him, and he tells him, well, if one chord is off, the whole symphony is ruined. He's a machine. He should have perfect recall. And the fact he got that wrong, something's not right. So, but then we see that even the other robot there, again, I don't know his name offhand, he also seems to have a personality, but he's a little off-putting. He's a little less human because of David. So we know there was some adjustments made. But it doesn't make any sense, also, because Ash is very human, so is Bishop. But anyway, and then we get to Romulus, where we have the other droid who gets the random upgrade in the middle, which changes his personality and everything. But again, we're not clued into, how much of that is programmed and how much of it is some kind of, evolution, self-learning. Like can they learn and adapt, or are they just programmed that way right off the assembly line? And if they are, we see essentially another version of Ash. Do they all start off the same? Does whoever makes them choose this guy gets personality file X, and this guy gets personality file Y, and she gets personality file Z? We need to know some of these things, and so far the movies have not told us. Because without knowing those, it's hard to judge as far as the kids back here in the Alien Earth series. So maybe we'll get something in season 2 of Alien Earth. I think they're also planning a sequel to Romulus, so there's potential there. Or maybe it pops up in one of the video games, Or maybe Ridley Scott gets to make his 3rd movie. The guy's in his 90s. Disney needs to be like, hey, dude, it's cool if you want someone else to direct it and everything, but you need to be there to help produce, hammer out the script. Let us hear your ideas. And obviously, we got to take into account if we've changed anything else. But he's been a producer of the other new things, so they should all fit. But I would like to see his vision completed to make the 3rd movie after Prometheus and Covenant. So we don't know we don't know the answer to the central question. And that's frustrating with a series like this, that's built around a central question like that. Although answering it without replacing it with another one would have been well, what are we going to do in season 2? So I kind of get it, but it's disappointing. Now, as for a continuation of the series, the big problem is it's only set 2 years before Alien, and the longer all this stuff keeps happening on Earth, the more it's going to strain credulity that no one knows about any of this in the movie Alien. Now, you can always excuse the crew of the Nostromo because they've been off in deep. They're probably off in deep space right now as Alien is taking place, or as Alien Earth is taking place, because I'm sure their contract was for a couple of years, and who knows how far they've got to go to get the ore they're hauling and all that stuff. So the specific members of the crew, sure, but in Aliens, and again, maybe Van Lowen and the others are just lying, but Aliens are like, we've never heard of this creature before, so they have to square that circle somehow. But that's the big problem, is if it keeps going, it almost has to go out into space, which then kind of ruins the title Alien Earth, I suppose. So I don't know how you can really go much beyond maybe the second season. I don't even know if you could really justify a third season, because the way this one ends, Weyland-Yutani is coming in to kick ass and take names from the looks of things. So, action's on their doorstep. So the plot to season 1 here revolved around the androids and the stuff aboard the ship, but is season 2 just going to be, okay, Weyland-Yutani grabs everyone and everything, takes it to their secret island fortress, and then eventually everything goes to hell there too? I mean, maybe. There are recurring themes in the Alien series. Again, the hubris of everyone thinking they can control the xenomorph and everyone being proven wrong by the end. So I guess that means at some point it's also going to backfire on Wendy, because the engineers couldn't control them, the humans couldn't control them in any adaptation. I expect if there's a third movie, they'll somehow turn on David. So, yeah. Hubris and greed. Those are the underlying themes. So, now Alien Season 2 could end with some of the kids still active and alive, and then they just fade into the background, and then a future movie or something picks up with them. That's entirely doable. But no, Season 2, we really need to see more of the other creatures that they brought back. We can do something with them. It's nice to get some random kills in here and there, but we need something. We know the Xenomorph's the star of the show and everything, but we bothered to bring these things in, let's use them. And that's kind of a failing of Season 1. We built up the entire season to finally seeing the plant thing in action, to finally seeing the eye thing take over a person, and it took over a corpse. I'm not even sure how that works, because he's dead. There should be no biological functions to assume control over. His brain should be dead, his body should be dead. So hopefully, Season 2 will explore that, because obviously that thing's going to want a different way off the island than walking around with a person with their chest exploded. That's going to draw attention. I would like to hear what that thing has to say, because it appears it's not a fan of the xenomorph. But yeah, and again, I'd like to see a little bit more of the other creatures. And since they have them captured, it'd be nice to see if all their speculation of, we could use this for this thing and this thing, and if any of this would actually pan out. If they're just no, there's no unique biological compounds here, there's no cures, no vaccines, nothing, no new diseases, nothing we can work with. They're just alien killing machines. That's it. That would be a downer ending, but at least it would show that they have reason to suspect they could get something out of the xenomorph, other than just trying to use it as a biological weapon. So, but they can't do that with the xenomorph itself, because the later entries don't have anyone having any research material on it. So. But yeah, just several things needed resolution. There were those things. There's it ends with Yutani sending a bunch of ships full of dudes, presumably, and okay, so isn't there going to be some kind of blowback from that? If 5 corporations run the world and one of them just went to war with the other one, with the CEO of that one potentially in the crossfire, that sounds like a dangerous play that the other 3 are going to be what are you doing, Yutani? And take her out, because she's clearly a loose cannon. So we're going to have to see a resolution to that. Yeah, they're just, and again, we'll come back to Kirsch. Like, what's the deal there? Why is he given the latitude he's given by Kid Cavalier? Is Kid Cavalier just not bright on that front? Maybe. But again, we need some answers there. And can Kirsch be repaired? Obviously, they couldn't have gotten around to that in the finale, but that's a thing going forward we're going to need to know. And then Morrow, we know his backstory, but what did he tell Yutani? What does she know? So, there's just a lot of things like that. Since we have the concept of a cyborg now in him, what other things are possible with cyborgs? We didn't see any others. To me, that's kind of a failing. Some of the other soldiers could have been cyborgs or something. Some of the other people aboard the ship. There's other options, and we got that taste, that tease, but we needed just a little bit more. Yeah. So that's my main thoughts. Is I like the show overall. There are things that should have been answered that weren't. A number of them. I'll skip the why was the entire crew of that ship completely incompetent morons who were just begging to be killed by the alien creatures on board. That's just bad writing. As fun as it is to have people that you are actively cheering to have them die, it's bad writing. I felt that aspect of that episode was actively bad writing. The rest of the show I thought had decent writing. I mean, old Kid Cavalier, for a genius, makes stupid decisions on a regular basis. But I chalk a lot of that to he's very socially awkward, and ultimately he has veto power over everything, because you see Kirsch and Adam trying to guide him away from certain decisions at various points, and sometimes he listens, sometimes he doesn't. So yeah, it'd be nice if the psychologist character actually served some kind of purpose on the show. She seems to just kind of be there to occasionally throw out something. I think honestly her character could have been completely written out of the show, because she has basically done nothing of substance. And her programmer husband could have just been, a couple random texts in the background. He didn't contribute a whole lot, and his death is not going to meaningfully impact the show. So, unless it prompts the psychologist to actually do something. So yeah, I mean, like I said, overall I liked it. I do think it is helping to reinforce the idea that, in my opinion, one of the main things that was holding back the Alien franchise was that it was centered on Ripley instead of being centered on the alien. Because, look at the third movie. It's well, we're going to bring Ripley back. Okay, well, the second movie didn't end in such a way we could do that, so we could have a major retcon. And then we have to kill off other characters, and then we ultimately kill her. Okay, well, that's great. So it's a 3-part series? Okay, sure. And then we have Alien Resurrection. Well, let's bring her back. A couple hundred years later, say we've never come across the xenomorphs anyplace else, which is the real problem with that. And then finally, years later, they're well, let's make Prometheus. Well, Ripley's not in its prequel. All right, let's make a sequel to that, Alien Covenant. Well, again, Ripley's not in its prequel. And then Alien Romulus, and this show. So the franchise has almost doubled in size, or more than doubled if you consider Alien Earth being if you look at it from running time, it's more than a movie. So we now have 4 movies with Ripley and 4 movies without Ripley. And so the future of the franchise is moving away from Ripley, which the franchise should have always been about the xenomorph. Now, you can still make aliens involving Ripley, that's fine. But Alien 3 should not have had her. Or that should have been the end of her story. And so, since it wasn't, it might have been a smarter move just to have aliens just end and then just start off somewhere else. And then if you want to, bring Ripley back in a later movie. And that's no offense to Sigourney Weaver, she's a great actress. And that's no offense to her character Ripley, she's a great character. But the xenomorph should be the star, not Ripley. So yeah, the only thing I kind of wish we would have seen, which would have been difficult given the plot line, but maybe in season 2, is to see them fully embrace the whole, like, if you put a xenomorph egg embryo into a creature other than a human, it takes on the traits of the creature. So, like, put them into some animals and see some weird variant xenomorphs, you know. We'll see this. But yeah. So, yeah, like I said, overall, like the show. It's worth watching. I'm looking forward to season 2. Hopefully there is a season 2. I don't know how far they can really drag this out. I don't think it's the kind of thing that you really want to have just endless seasons on, because again, unless you start to take some weird side parallel path to Alien, it's just not going to make any sense. So a second, maybe third season if the writing's competent, but that's it. You know, if you want to keep going, make a different series. You know, or make a movie with some of these characters, or have them meet up with the people from Romulus somehow eventually. You know, things like that. But yeah, overall, I think the show's worth checking out if you're a fan of the franchise. If you're not, say it's more 50-50. I think you need to be an Alien fan, probably. But yeah, that's my final analysis. Not a perfect show by any stretch. Overall, I mean, you got the one bad episode, you have the things that are unresolved. So overall, from what we've seen in season 1, I'd say it's probably 6.5. Maybe a 7, but it's probably 6.5. Now, like, first couple episodes, they had real promise, but things that should have been answered never were. Things that should have been explored more never were. But other things, you know, were decent. So yeah, I'd say 6.5. Yeah. I'd like to mention in the video, I'd like to get a physical copy so I can just watch it all the way through. I don't think that's going to work as well as I hoped it would, because there's moments that obviously, like, here's the commercial break moment. So, you know, as a movie, it's going to be a little janky, but, you know, still, it'd be nice to have that way. Plus, I own the 7 movies in physical copies, so, you know. But anyway, that's my final analysis. If you like the franchise, you should check the show out. If you don't, check the first couple episodes and see what you think. But then you should check out the rest of the franchise because it's excellent for the most part. But yeah. So let me know what you folks think down in the comments. Did you like the show? You're going to watch the show? You know, do you think it actually fits in continuity with the movies? Is there problems? Would you watch an Alien Romulus 2 if it came out? I presume we'll have a different title, but who knows? But yeah, anything like that. Then like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Sharing and commenting helps us grow the channel. Always appreciate it. Thank you everyone who helped us get over 575 subscribers not too long ago. And I think we're well on our way to 600. So, you know, stick around, see what happens. But yeah, that's all I've got. So, for now, just remember, in space, no one can hear you scream.
Game over, man. It's game over.